Well, hi and welcome back to the Healthy Metal Hippie. Today we are so excited to be here with Gerrod Harris. He is from Canada, for one, yay, and he's also from the band One in the Chamber. He plays drums for them and he's the manager. So welcome, thank you so much for being here today. I'm just delighted to have you.
Thank you so much for having me today, Ashley.
It's you know what, we connected like a few years ago. I don't even really know how on Instagram. I think I don't know who messaged who or what was going on, but we connected there, and I kind of fell in love with your band, and
Thank you.
so it really I am truly excited that you're here today because you guys are accomplishing a lot of amazing things in Canada, especially as an independent artist, and being self-managed, and you're 100% DIY, which I am living for. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the band?
Yeah, thank you so much for the kind words. So One in the Chamber started in 2015. We're coming up to the 10-year point now.
Oh,
And it just kind of started as this thing. We were half of us were in jazz school, and we just wanted to make rock music. Cecil Eugene, our guitar player, was studying jazz. I was also studying jazz a few years below him at York University. Um, and he had met our singer Mike Biase, and they were kind of trying to put something together. And he found me. I've told this story a bunch of times, but I played a jazz night. I subbed in for a friend's band at the school pub, and it was hands down the worst show I've ever played. And whatever reason,
oh,
he was like, "That's the guy I want." And then after a few months of writing, jamming, we found our bassist Christian Dotto. And it's just been a really fun time since then. Like we've played throughout Ontario and a little bit into Quebec over the years. We've released two separate EPs. In 2018, we released our debut EP, I've Got Something to Say, which we recorded at Phase One Studios with Murray Daigle. And then we were actually the last band to record in the original building for Phase One, which was super cool.
oh,
This was like a studio that Rush used to use all the time back in the day, and it was just in like the suburbs in Scarborough, just a little bit outside of like Toronto.
yeah.
And they were in the process of moving the studio and rebuilding it like to the exact specifications.
Oh,
And we were actually the last band to use the live room, which was super
oh,
cool. Um, yeah, and we did two music videos for that EP, for one for Bills to Pay and another for Itch and Back. And just playing and playing and playing, and then 2020 comes and we decide to record our next EP. We recorded Reload again at Phase One, but this time at the new building, and again working with producer Murray Daigle. And this one was recorded literally like, I think we got the final mixes like a month before the world shut down.
oh,
So yeah. So and that was a weird time for planning things and stuff like that. So the first single came out in like March 2020, which I think is around the time that we actually connected.
yeah. Oh, that
And
makes sense.
it was, yeah. And then we released a second single at the end of that year, thinking that the next year would be uh,
Would be
different.
back on.
That was Furry to the Gallows. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the record ended up actually coming out in 2022. And that was a ton of fun as well.
Yeah, you guys had like you did a lot of really cool things. And this is one thing I always admire about different bands is the creative ways that you are getting things out. Like you did your run of coffee, right? And I had some of that
Yeah.
coffee. You did different raffles with local businesses and things like that, right? And just, it's just really cool. And it's a way to build a community, which I am kind of all about. Not kind of.
Yeah. I mean, for the release of Reload, where we were kind of coming out of that pandemic time, and where we'd been sitting on this music for so long, and like the singles at that point had been out for over a year. we just wanted to make the album as big as possible. So the big push was we wanted to partner with all of these like local businesses that we love, and from there kind of offer like a pre-order prize pack thing where if you make a pre-order you will automatically be entered to win a prize pack and from these companies. And it was awesome. It worked out fantastic. It was the first time that I had applied for sponsorship in that sense, and it worked out. Like, there was a couple companies that were like, we can't really do things like this right now, and totally understand, of course.
Yeah.
But, the ones that we wanted to work with, like, we're super into it. So like the release of Reload, we did this pre-order thing, and it was sponsored by Muskoka Brewery, Hades Coffee, Chica's Chicken, and Sockbro. And from there, like you're saying, we did this partnership with Hades Coffee where they didn't just they didn't just send us coffee to give as a prize, but we actually developed our very own coffee blend with them.
It was like whiskey, right?
Yeah. So we partnered with them to make the Reloaded blend, and that was a really cool thing because I'm such a coffee nerd. So working with the team there, they sent me a lot of their coffee to just try out and like think about like what it is that we would want in our coffee. And my favorite blends are all dark roasts, so we wanted to go that route. However, dark roasts also has less caffeine because you have to not burn the beans, but you have to roast them more, which actually burns some of the caffeine out.
Right.
So they blended their dark roast with some of their extra caffeinated blend to kind of balance that out. And then the beans would soak for like a week in Canadian whiskey before being dried and everything like that. So there is like a little bit of this sweetness to it as well, which is something that you don't typically find with a dark roast.
No.
That was a lot of fun to just kind of put together.
It's just, it's just cool, innovative ideas. And I think you see more and more of these kind of different things coming out that people are partnering and, using that. Everybody's using it to promote, right? And it's just so cool. So I actually had no idea that you were studying jazz. That's very cool. And so I'm like, okay, so I want to know about how you really, tell me everything. You fell in love with music, but were you like always a rock guy, or were you, what brought you to jazz? Was that like in your family, or I just want to know your story here.
So, no, I started as a rock guy, and now I'm only a rock guy, it seems. I wish I had more time to play jazz. But essentially, when I started playing the drums back in like the 7th grade, so I guess I was like 11, I guess. I don't know how old people are when they're that young anymore.
Like 12, I think. Yeah.
Something like that, probably.
Maybe.
But back when I started playing the drums, I actually didn't have any interest in playing music. I just kind of looked around the room, and it was elementary school. They're like, you have to pick an instrument, and drums were the only thing that were in the room that are in a rock band. So I was like, I want to play the drums, I guess. And it was kind of this thing where I was like, I guess I'll do this for the next 2 years, and then I won't do it ever again. Which is so, it's so laughable now, right? But essentially that was kind of how I got into it. I grew up listening to rock music, like the greatest hits of like the Stones and Zeppelin and Aerosmith, like Prince, the Chili Peppers, Van Halen, lots of stuff like that in my house.
Yeah.
My grandpa had a huge collection of vinyl, like wall to wall, like floor to ceiling, of predominantly like jazz and like old school R&B and soul. But being a kid, I didn't actually listen to too much of it,
right?
But so when it came time to thinking about post-secondary, the big goal for me was I just wanted to be a better musician. And about 2 years before that point, like my drum teacher was like, okay, like if you want to go do that, like you don't go to school for rock music, like you need to learn how to play jazz. So that kind of started that journey. And like I said, I wish I played more jazz now. I wish I had the time to do it. I absolutely love jazz. And I studied jazz at York University. It was just a really cool experience, like really just such a education in not only like musicality and things like that, but just like exposure to so much more than what I'd grown up listening to and what I was listening to.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you've read Dave Grohl's book, but he
I
talks
have.
about.
It's back
You're
there.
like, I've got it right here. But yeah, same sort of thing. How he talks about like his mom taking him down to watch all the jazz players and things like that, and how that made such an impact. So, do you have your grandfather's records now?
A lot of them, yeah. Many
So
of them
cool.
are still at my aunt's place, but
Yeah.
every now and then I just go by and just walk out with a stack.
You're like, thank you.
But yeah, like, you know, when I first started really getting into jazz and started getting into records, you know, like the first thing I went over to my grandma's house and like I just kind of flipped through them and went for the like I grabbed all of his Miles Davis, all of his John Coltrane, and then just anything that kind of looked cool, and you know, like the classics like Marvin Gaye and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, as the years have gone on, I've grabbed more things that were less like you know, like you're getting into jazz, of course you're going to listen to Miles Davis and Coltrane.
Yeah, of course.
Which, you know, still two of my favorites, of course, but there's so much more to it. And now, you know, just every now and then just swing by and pick up something else.
Oh, I absolutely love it. And you definitely need to come to London because we have some really cool jazz clubs here. And so
I
have
bet.
to come check it out sometime. It's cool though how, you know, we all get influenced by all these different kinds of music, and you know, maybe a little different, but we went to see Andrea Bocelli a couple weeks ago at.
Oh yeah, my dad loves him. That was something that was always playing in my house.
I love him, like, and so a lot of people don't think this about me, like, oh, Ash is listening to like an opera singer. Well, yeah, I am. And I grew up listening to lots of classical, lots of opera. I was given the cassette tapes of like Led Zeppelin, of The Who, of Black Sabbath, and things like that. And, you know, and so I think it's important that we have these big, round musical loves. I like to say to people, I'll listen to anything from K-pop to death metal, like count me in, because no matter what, there's always something for everybody.
There's so much out there to enjoy, and you know, like I used to be that kid that was like, oh, if it's not rock music, I don't want to listen to it, and like that kid was an idiot. Like there's so much cool stuff, and like of course it's not all out there for everyone, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
There's so much cool stuff, and you know, genres are there to help us organize things and to help market things. But, you know, if you look past the labels, there's like, you know, like the kid that when everyone in grade 7 was listening to like 50 Cent and all that stuff, like, well, I was like, oh, that sucks. Like, that's stupid. You know, like no one else was listening to like Aerosmith. Like I predominantly just listen to hip hop now, like all the time.
Oh, really?
It's, you know, yeah, like there's just so much cool stuff out there. And I feel like, you know, like of course you're not gonna like everything. I don't like everything, but why not give it a try?
Yeah, what have you got to lose? A couple minutes? I don't know. Sometimes as quick as 30 seconds. It's I totally agree with that. I think it was probably a little bit like that in like junior high, you know, like grade 8.
Probably. Like I mean, most kids are. I
love my punk rock and my classic rock, and I'm so cool and stuff. But I don't know. But then I still like go home and listen to the Spice Girls. So, you know, just don't tell. No, but it's true. And I think as you get older, I think you truthfully just stop giving a fuck and in the nicest way,
It's a lot more interesting that way.
Yeah, and I think you worry less about what everybody else thinks about what you're listening to or what you're watching or whatever the case may be, and you're just doing things that you enjoy. And that's just how we all should be, I think. And so, what what hip hop artists are you listening to right now that you love?
As a
Just
Toronto
like
boy,
two.
I am okay. Yeah, as a Toronto boy, I am fully team Kendrick Lamar. Not
Oh,
Like Us has been on like near constant repeat since it
oh,
dropped.
really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've loved Kendrick Lamar since I was in since like a little after Good Kid, Mad City came out, but like around the time To Pimp a Butterfly, that was I think second or third year for me, and that was like, being a jazz student and hearing this prolific rapper come out with like a jazz inspired album, like our whole department was just listening to that record. Like I mean, everyone was listening to that record, but yeah, Kendrick Lamar is a huge one. Um, I think if I just like open up Spotify, I think the not one of my favorites, but someone that I've been listening to a ton lately, like just getting into, is Pusha
Yeah.
T. Just like
Okay.
very straight up aggressive, like not gangster rap, but like a modern reiteration of more of that ethos, I think, and just some really cool stuff.
Okay, I need to listen to that. And to be fair, I'm not well versed in like Kendrick Lamar. I think my son was telling me about him the other day because it's
Mm.
something to do with like Tyler the Creator because Dimitri's in love with Tyler the Creator. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's someone that I haven't given enough time to, I think.
I'm kind of on the fence with him because I'm like, part of me, I'm like, this is cool because it's like 900 genres put together, and some of it, I just can't deal with it. I don't know, but this is me, and I think I probably just don't get it, and that's, you know,
That's
that's
that's a fair approach, because the few times I've listened to Tyler the Creator, like I walk away being like, I want to like this, but I just don't get it.
and
And everyone loves him, and he's doing really cool artistic stuff, but like for me, it's just like
yes,
I feel like I'm missing the key to this.
right,
And you know what, like another band for me that like I have wanted to love this band for so long, and every few years or so I try and like go through everything. The Smashing Pumpkins.
oh,
I want to like them so badly, and there's just something to it that I'm like, I must be missing something because everyone loves them. And uh like I don't blame them, I blame me. I'm like, what is it that I am not picking up here? Because
and
like I
that
want to enjoy the Smashing Pumpkins more than I actually enjoy them.
I think that's actually very fair though. And I don't know, I know I have examples of the exact same thing, but to be fair, I can't think of it right now. But I always, yeah, you go back and you're like, well, I like this and this and this, and therefore I should like this. But then,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you're just like, something's not right. And like, I listen to Tyler the Creator with my son, and you know what? I'm like, half of this song obsessed. It hits this point, and then I fall off the rails, and then I like it again like 30 seconds later. And I think that's what happens. And so, I don't know. Also, I feel how one of our speakers is this kind of off topic, but whatever. How one of our speakers is, if we listen to it downstairs, all that comes through is the bass. And if I'm in the kitchen, I'm just having, like when you go to a concert and then your ears are vibrating because bass is just too
Mm.
much bass. I
Yeah.
get that. And it's quiet in my house, but I get that in my kitchen. And then I just can't. I'm getting old. I think that's it. I'm getting old because I just can't handle it anymore. And so otherwise, I don't know. We have our little jams, and I think that's cool. I'm gonna have to check out a little more of that Kendrick Lamar though. See how I vibe with that. Because you have a huge role within your band. You aren't just the drummer, but you manage your band. And I think there's a lot of bands that self-manage, but I also think it really gives a lot of uh, unique kind of challenges, and you know you're tripling your work, really quadrupling it. So do you want to?
It's more than doubling for sure.
Yeah, quadruple. We can like 10 times the work, because it's kind of full on, right? It's a full-time job. You're working to grow as an artist, grow as a band, build a fan base, and do all these kind of things. It definitely um, takes a lot of time. So how do you kind of keep on top of everything?
Um, it's kind of habit at this point. Like I started managing the band after maybe a year or two of us actually being a band. Um, and it was kind of like an unofficial thing. Like I just started doing things and doing more and then doing more. And then it kind of got to a point where like it was that. But it only started that way because I had the most time available at the moment. And, and I was at the time I was also taking a music business course,
Mhm.
and it was a fantastic class, lots of like guest speakers from local industry and management teams and entertainment lawyers and labels were coming in, and it was just like I was taking in all this information and I was like, oh, like we need direction, I guess. So I just, it kind of started with just like booking more shows and booking more shows outside of Toronto. Cause when you're a young band, all you want to do is play your hometown.
Yeah,
But you can only do that so much. Right.
yeah, for
And,
sure.
and then from there, it kind of like just grew into, okay, we need to make a record. And what, like the advice that I would give to anyone is like, look at what your favorite artists are doing, because it came time to make a record, and I was like, how do people promote a record? And I just started looking at what other bands do. It's like, oh yeah, music videos. Like we're not going to get on MTV. It's, 2018, but like music videos still have a place. Right. So, from there it was,
Huge.
yeah, it was like finding a team to work with, and we found a fantastic team to do so. And, conveying some of our own ideas, but also recognizing that, when it came to videos, I was like, I don't know anything about this stuff. And now I have a better sense. Like there's been a couple of videos that I've like taken a bigger role in terms of like the idea stage or like the writing and not quite storyboarding, but when you're managing, you're always growing and you're always taking on new roles, and it just always looks different. But in terms of keeping up with it now, it's been like 7 or 8 years of doing it. And it's just kind of one of those things where, start with a long-term goal and then a longer term goal, and start looking at like the different pieces of how you want to get there. And, kind of like if you're doing it DIY, like we are, like shoot for the moon, like be as ambitious as you want to be, because um, we get to be our own boss. And if there's something that I'm like, hey, this seems really cool, I'll bring it to the guys. And like, if we're into it, we're into it. And if we're not, it's just like, okay, we're not doing that. Cool. Right. And we
Yeah,
move on to the next thing. And, I don't think we ever would have imagined we would have collaborated with like a coffee company to make our own blend, but it just kind of came together that way. And it was like, yeah, absolutely. Like that wasn't one of the goals for 2022, but it certainly fell into place because of that. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, I feel like I've strayed from the question. I don't think I know what the question is anymore.
I don't know either, but you know what? It's totally fine. I think and I think taking. I think that, yeah, you know what? If we met in 2020, I was finishing up taking artist management and A&R at the Notting Hill Academy of Music over here. Um, and so that's really been a focus for me too, is like band management, is how do we exploit ourselves as band, and really get things. I hate that word, but that's what it is, to get yourself out there, right? And
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
so I know how helpful that was for me. And then when you're like in the thick of it as a band, having all that expertise and then all the all the experience, it just makes such a difference when you're working on that band yourself. And I think, and it's really impressive that you do it and how much you guys have accomplished. Like, you've also been
Oh, thanks.
you've done tons of festivals, right? You guys
Yeah,
won a
yeah,
ton of awards and all sorts of things. And,
yeah.
it's not
I
small
think the
feats, right?
easiest. I think what makes the management easier is that I am also the one that gets to play the shows. So there's like hard work and then there is reward, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a lot of unanswered emails and it's a lot of like looking into things that pan out or don't pan out, or things that pan out but not how you expected them to pan out in the slightest. But at the end of the day, like if I spend like a week submitting to every festival that I can and we get to play a couple of those festivals, like that's the reward. Like we're constantly looking to do cool shit and just have fun with it, because like that's what being in a rock band's about, really. It sounds so cheesy, but
Yes. No.
if you wanted to be popular, you should have started a pop band or something like that, right? You don't start a rock band to be popular. That's
No.
counterintuitive almost,
You,
especially in 2024.
yeah. You
So I
started
mean,
to
there is
create
that level
something.
of like I, at first the management stuff was very challenging and there's a huge learning curve to it, and there still is. Like, I'll be first to say that I think I'm very good at what I do, but I'll also be the first to say that I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And like, it really is just the pursuit of how can we do cool stuff and how can we have fun with this, and that's kind of what makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. I think too, we talk a lot about connection and how we use music to, connect with people, right? Um, I'm not in a band, clearly, but I do a lot of writing and things like that. But that's one thing I always kind of go back to is how you connect with the music that you love, how it comforts you, and how it cares for you, and how you have these communities that come together all because they love music. And I think that's what you end up building. It's that community. It's that fiery passion. And you're doing it one step at a time. It's mega cool.
Oh, thank you.
It's a pleasure. Going through all this, I'm sure you have felt like music has been there for you, you know, in your whole life, I'm sure. I can remember, probably at least starting when I was 5 and onward, always those little pieces of music that have been a comfort when things have been hard. How do you kind of keep on top of, all of your health, your physical health, your mental health, balancing everything together, and how does music play a role in that? Sorry, that's a big question.
That's a big question. That's a big question.
Hmm.
I don't know. Very active, I guess. I'm usually at the gym like 3 to 4 times a week. I actually find that ties in really nicely with the management side of things, because it's just a time where I actually get a lot of ideas, or like if there's things that I'm like, how do I approach this idea, or this thing that we want to do seems impossible. Like, how do I break it down step by step? And I usually find like actually, like going for a walk, going for a run, that movement really does kind of help these things come together. Um, yeah, I mean, music's always playing when I'm doing it.
It's true. I know I talk probably too much sometimes about how running and all this kind of stuff kind of gets me in my creative zones. And you do I take my dog out for like 10K, not just running. I'm not quite there yet, but I'll take him out and I'm just like, oh my God, like I need to, make sure I have my phone with me because there's always things coming in. There's always a fresh approach you can take. And honestly,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for me too, it's really so important in managing my stress levels and helping me kind of just ground and settle for the day. You know, I don't know if you feel the same on that too, but
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, like to have the luxury of having such a creative outlet, right? Whether it's playing music or writing music or, like whatever it is that you do, to have like this podcast is a creative outlet, right? And to have the ability to do that, it's so like everything is so interconnected, and like the movement side and the activity and the physical exertion to mental health to the having that creative outlet, it's all cyclical, and it's all so incredibly important.
yes, absolutely. Well, you actually have a podcast too. And
I do, yes.
tell us all about it because you know what? I've listened to it and everything's cool, but I'm just saying it's very cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I started Beats by Jer last summer, so summer 2023. We're actually coming up to about a year, I guess this week. I think the first episode was July 25th. I might be mistaken, but I think that's what it
Oh,
was. And you know what? Like on the idea of creative outlets, like the podcast started because I wanted to do more work. Apparently, no,
you're like, just not enough.
there was this. Yeah. There's not enough time in the day. Let's use even more of it. No, I think it started originally. The idea started because I was looking for something additional, like some additional creative outlet to do. Something that, like when I'm not at band practice, when we're not playing shows, when I'm not putting stuff together for One in the Chamber, something that I can do that's like just kind of my own thing and can do at my own pace. And I think I sat on this idea for like a year. I sat on it for a very long time. And it's kind of an extension of my writing because I have been like a music journalist for I don't even know anymore. Over 10 years now. I've been writing about music longer than I've actually been with the band. Um, and like I started writing like concert reviews for like the Heavy Press, which is an online blog that I hope still exists. And then I did some stuff for Canadian Beats, and now I primarily just write for the Spill magazine. And it's been such a cool ride because I've gotten to listen to albums that I otherwise never would have heard of, or albums that kind of come my way, and it's like, okay, cool, I've got some time this week, I'll just throw it on and write about it. I've gotten to go see some shows that otherwise, again, I would not have seen. And I've gotten to interview like a lot of artists, like in the last 10 years, especially. So that has been super cool. And I guess I was just kind of looking to do something like as an extension of that, but, make it my own. Right. And instead of, following what I do with album reviews or concert reviews or interviews, like how can I go beyond that? And I can't quite pinpoint what actually made me come to a podcast. Like my wife suggested it a few times, and I think the idea was there. I don't know, like, I don't know. I sat on it for a long time, and I had a few conversations with different friends that do it. I sat down with TJ Hodder, who runs the Hodder Show, and I was like, walk me through like what you do. Because it's obviously a lot more than just plugging in a microphone and talking for an hour or two. Like there has to be more to it than that.
Yeah.
And like we talked about it, and at this point I'd already been thinking about it for a few months. We talked about it, and like that conversation was like summer 2022. Like it took a very long time for me to go from like ideation to actually doing it. And then like I think I wrote my first episode like 4 or 5 times. I think I recorded it like 4 or 5 times. Like it was not a spontaneous process at all. You know, and like it's one thing to write about music and have opinions about music, but it's another thing to vocally say them. And it's also another thing to be like, is this worth, you know, when I review an album, it probably takes 3 minutes to read the review, right? It's a couple hundred words. Do I actually have enough to say that warrants people taking more time out of their day to like listen to that? So there was a lot of that. And then beyond that, there was also like, how do I, you know, being a drummer, like I sit at the back of the stage, I sit behind drums, and then I sit behind 3 other musicians. This was kind of like this thing that I was like, no, there is no hiding, because it's your podcast. It is you. There is no co-host. There's nothing else. Right. So I think there was just this long, it was a long road to getting it actually started. It's been a lot of fun though. It's been a lot of fun. I started the podcast last summer. Since then, I've had a number of guests come on. July Talk drummer Danny Miles, Kamasi Washington drummer Tony Austin, J.M. Harper. He's a documentarian. He just made a fantastic documentary about rap lyrics and how they're used in criminal trials. One of my former professors, who's also an author and a documentarian and a producer, and he's written like hundreds of liner notes for huge artists and reissues, Rob Bowman. He worked on the new HBO documentary series on Stax Records, so he came on to talk about it. And, you know, I don't think I realized until prepping for that conversation, but his course that I took 10 years ago or whenever on African-American music and the correlation between music and the quest for equal citizenship, dignity, survival, one of the biggest influences on what I do, and trying to find like that critical connection between, I'm not just talking about music, but like what is the cultural influence on music and what is the cultural impact from music. And that to me is something that I think is really worth exploring, and to me is super interesting.
Yes. No, absolutely. I think you're right, and I think you do a good job of it too. I know for me, mine, when I started thinking, I jumped the gun a little bit quicker than you did about starting a podcast, but probably not by much.
There's just a lot of self-doubt.
Yes, there is. And then you have to reach the point where you're like, I'm just going to get over myself and I'm just going to do it. And hopefully people enjoy it, right? For me, it's interesting because my big passions are music and wellness, right? And I was like, they go together. They 100% do. And so I'm like, this is where I have to marry them together, because that's what's, it's exactly like you say, you do the things that's what's important to you, right? And so, here we don't just have musicians, right? But I also have like wellness experts that come on and we talk about all sorts of different things, right? And so I love that you've got that whole different kind of spin on music. It's not just, oh, this was a cool album and this guy played on it and I really liked it because, you're like, I like that you take it bigger and, really put thought behind it. It's so cool.
I have a hard time doing that. And I'm not knocking anyone that does that, because there are a lot of amazing podcasts that just talk about records and like who played on it, what's going on. To me,
but those are important though.
Episodes like that, absolutely. I enjoy a lot of them too. But like, to me, like again, maybe it's just the idea, because I am putting myself out there into the forefront. Like I have to make sure that I am doing something that like goes beyond what I was already doing. Because if not, like, why am I taking the step forward from just writing about music, right? Like that's what I already was doing.
And I think that if you extend your passion,
it's so fulfilling, so interesting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I love that. How often do you release episodes again?
I started super ambitious, again, against the recommendation from my friends that were doing podcasts. They were like, don't do one a week because it's a really hard pace to maintain. I said, I'm going to do one a week. And I think I did that for like 2 or 3 months. And then it immediately was like, this is way too much, like in terms of planning, writing out the episodes, recording them. It was way too much to like actually do on a weekly basis. So I think like last November or October, something like that, I think I took like a month-long break just to kind of collect myself and look at like what it was that I actually wanted to do. And now I do bi-weekly, and that has been much more manageable. There are still like some weeks that go by where I'm just so busy with work or like the band, and then like it's Saturday night and I was like, oh no, like Monday's coming.
Shit, my episode.
So like I still procrastinate a ton, but the bi-weekly thing is a lot more manageable.
Yeah.
And as of now, I've done 28 episodes, and I actually took an extra week off. This like I guess today was supposed to be, or yeah, today was supposed to be a day that an episode came out, but I took an extra week off, and next week on July 29th, season 2 of Beats by Jer will be premiering. And I'm super excited for this one because I recorded it last week. And it's going to be the first ever video episode. It's going to be available on Spotify and on YouTube. So I'm kind of like branching out from just Spotify now as well. Cool. And I recorded, filmed last week with 2 friends to kind of like start off with this cool new series that I hope to kind of do with different people as they come on. It's going to be really fun. Yeah.
Oh, I'm really excited. And you know what? This episode is coming out on the same day. So we are...
oh, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to put links to everything. So you can
Fantastic.
Keep going with us and kick off the new season with you. It's going to be perfect. I absolutely love it.
It's like the multiverse of podcasts.
Yes. And I mean, and you know what? You do have a lot of amazing things to say about music, and insightful. Like I say, it's not just, I like this album, which, as we agree, very important. But absolutely. I like that extra layer. I like the extra layer that you put on, and it really highlights your passion. And that's what makes me happy.
That kind of comes through with it all.
Yes, of course it does. I mean, I know I have a few to catch up on too, but you know, I have absolutely loved everything about your podcast so far. And you know, I'll say it again. People think I just I'm too gushy and too happy and excited about the people I have on my show, but I don't mind, because if I wasn't excited about you, I wouldn't have you on my show. So,
yeah.
So, oh my gosh. Well, so I want to know, we were talking a little bit before we hit record about Canadian bands. And I mean, to be fair, I didn't even know that Kendrick Lamar is Canadian. I did not know that. So,
oh no, he's not. He's not.
Oh, he's not Canadian. Oh, okay.
No, he's.
I'm like, is he Canadian? Compton. He's from Compton. Okay, no, now I look like a dummy, but that's okay.
No, don't worry. The whole beef thing with him and Drake and Drake.
With Drake, yeah.
Guy.
Oh right, yeah.
It was just.
I knew that at least.
You know, like Kendrick won, and he, I guess he owns Toronto or something. I don't know. Give him the key to the city.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to get the updates on that for my son, because
I did an episode on it.
Then I need.
It was a lot of fun, actually. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go listen to that one after then, because I need to catch up on all this. Okay, so forget I said what I said, but Canadian artists. Oops. Canadian artists. What do you love? It doesn't matter, new or old or whatever. Anything.
Okay, if we're talking like unsigned artists, I I mean, there's so many across the country, but like the Toronto and like the greater like Ontario scene is so vivid. It's so cool, and it's so fantastic to get to share the stage with so many fantastic artists. And like to not only like hanging out and like playing shows with them, but to enjoy their music as well. And I don't want to miss anyone, but like immediately off the top of my head, if you're like put together like a big show for One in the Chamber, who do you want to invite on stage with you guys? My go-to bands that I always think of, Drop Top Alibi, The Jailbirds, and Cigar Club. Just three amazing bands. But there's so many others on the on the unsigned side of things that make this such a cool collective and such a cool artistic community. If I was to think beyond and like think just like big Canadian bands,
yeah,
I know like you prepped me with this one, and I've been thinking about it, and it's been tough. I really enjoyed July Talk. They're super cool.
right.
I saw them at Massey Hall last year, and before seeing them live, I enjoyed their music, but again, there was kind of like this thing that was like, I feel like I'm not getting it, and it was like I want to listen to them, I want to like them more than I do, but I'm just not quite getting it. And I saw them at Massey Hall, and they put out that record last year as well. I'm drawing a blank on the name. What record was it that they put out last year? I'm pulling it up.
Okay.
I need to get the name now. Remember Never Before. That record was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Saw them at Massey Hall shortly after it came out, and like that was instantly like, oh, I get it. Like this band is so cool. The dual vocal thing, like the sort of like indie alternative rock tone that's super sleek and modernized. It's so cool. I really enjoy the Tragically Hip and Nickelback. These are both two bands that like took me a while to get into. Like it's so easy to hate on Nickelback because everyone else does, and
but secretly they're like enormous.
Yeah, they're awesome. Like there's more people loving them than hating them, and like those riffs are so good. I mean, I really enjoyed Nickelback when I was growing up, and then like I heard it was cool to hate them, and like something happens, and you're just like, oh yeah, like these guys do suck, but no, they don't suck. They're super cool, and the Tragically Hip is another band that it actually took me quite a while to get into. But like they're Canada's band,
They are. Oh my god, they so are. People will say that like Rush is Canada's band, but it's the Hip. For sure. I mean, Rush, 100%. Obviously, but it's still the Hip.
Rush is fantastic too, but it's the Hip. Yeah. Another incredible band that is super Rush inspired, and they're signed, and they're doing incredible things. Crownlands. They're a duo, just a vocalist who plays drums and a guitarist who sometimes plays like a double neck with a bass, and sometimes plays synths while he's playing guitar, and he's got like the keyboard pedals on like at his feet, and he's like playing like he's doing what Geddy was doing, but he's playing guitar primarily. That band is so cool, and they're always releasing really awesome music. And it's just like, I'm not a huge progressive rock guy, but they're just, they teeter on that 70s classic rock kind of progressive, but not like so progressive. I mean, it's pretty progressive.
That's my gimme stuff.
Oh,
I want all of it.
Totally. Check out Crownlands. Crownlands.
You're going to have to send me like all these links.
Yeah. I've seen them live a bunch now, and it's so cool because like, you'd see them before they were signed, and I want to say they're like to Universal or to an offshoot of Universal. Like they're like crushing it. They like you'd see them before they were signed, and like they'd always have these packed venues and stuff like that. And then you're seeing on like social media that they're like opening for like I might be mistaken about these names, but I feel like in the last couple of years they opened for like Primus and like Jack White and stuff like that. Like they were like
cool.
for a while the band that like if you were coming to Canada and you wanted a Canadian opener and you were a rock band, you probably got Crownlands. Like they actually like last year they did the last couple Canadian Kiss shows. So, like yeah.
Because I'm sitting here, the more you're saying it, I'm like, I think I know them, but I feel, and see, this is good for me because I feel so behind on Canadian music right now because, like, I've been in the UK for 5 years. I'm getting all acquainted with our small UK bands without, and Canada? Who's awesome. Canada? It's like
they're awesome. Yeah, they're the band that's just doing it, and you know they're consistently releasing music, and it's always great.
I'm looking it up right now. Oh yeah, I feel like I have some of their stuff liked in my Spotify too, so I better double check. Well, you probably see me post about them, but like I love Mother since they began. Cool like, oh, you know, for newer bands because they've actually been around for quite a while too, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah, like 2005 they got together. I think I want to say first album was 2007, but maybe that's wrong.
Oh, okay.
They've been going for a long time. I've been seeing them for like what year is it? I don't know, more than 10 years. So, and it's been really cool seeing them over here in the UK play, you know, some good 3,000 seat venues and things like that, doing huge things in different festivals and stuff like that. In Calgary, I saw them play X Fest a few times. And it's just like a festival in Calgary. And I saw them at one of the casinos and things like that. So seeing them internationally and everybody, it's actually a lot of young kids too, like 16, 17, they're all like obsessed.
So cool. Yeah.
And I think,
fantastic.
You know, being Canadian, you see these bands that are like getting known internationally and it just makes you happy, you know. I need to catch up on my Canadian music, but I'm certainly excited when I see all the Canadians. JJ Wild too. I saw her open at some.
She's incredible. Yeah,
she is,
she's and always doing really cool things, like huge shows, like really cool songs, really cool recordings. She's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was. You know, she played a few London shows. I think it was last year. She was playing. Who did she open for? Doesn't matter, but it was at one of the Hyde Park festival shows in London. And so she was on one of the smaller stages. But I mean, there's like 65,000 people who attend these things, right? And I mean, they didn't all go watch her, but it was so much fun. And yeah, when I see Canadians kicking ass outside of Canada, I am like, yeah, I'm so proud of them. You know, because I think it's really, really hard I hate to say it, it's hard to get out of Canada sometimes. You know, much harder. Sure. I think it's much harder than getting out of the States or getting out of the UK. And I think it's just, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of it's just about how much promotion there is, just the population. We can even just talk about that. Canada having a tiny, in comparison, population, right?
Small and spread out population.
Yeah, it makes things very difficult. And so, yay, Canada. I'm so proud of you for all the cool things that you do. So if you could give, I mean, you touched a little bit on it already, but if you could give advice to bands that are starting out and, they're just fresh-faced and off we go, what would you say to them? And maybe give your unique Canadian perspective.
That's a tough one. I think
get those hard hitters.
I think as an artist and as someone that does stuff on the business side of it, I think one of the most important things that you should recognize, and the earlier on you recognize this, the better it is that what works for one will almost never work for another. And there's like, on one hand, you're kind of like, oh, like that means that, we can't just follow this formula and make it. But that also means that you kind of get to carve your own path and do something that's super interesting and unique and meaningful to you. And maybe that's what all you need. Like, be ambitious, put the work in, and recognize that everything is like almost constantly changing. Like, what even worked for you 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it's different now. Put the work in, stay on top of it, and always keep your eyes and ears open for what other people are doing, and stay ambitious, stay in tune, and stay loving the music of it all.
Yes.
Enjoy the creative journey. Because again, I mean, it doesn't pan out as you may want it to, but it is a privilege to ride this wave. And I think if you just enjoy it and see it through, you'll come out better for it.
I agree. It's all, at the end of the day, it's all about being authentic to yourself.
For sure.
And really, and yeah, maybe don't underestimate how much work is involved.
Yeah, just, be ambitious though. Like, make more work for yourself. It usually pays off.
Yeah, I'd say probably like 9.5 times out of 10 it pays off.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Gerrod, I have to say thank you again for being here with us today. It's honestly, I have had a blast, and I'm really excited to see the future of your podcast and also the future for One in the Chamber. I hope that we can get you guys over here one day soon. We can start getting you playing in shows in London.
Yeah, that would be incredible. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to do it, but that would be absolutely something.
We'll figure it out.
For having me on, Ashley. And this was a lot of fun.
Thank you. We will. Oh, and that's the other thing. Where can people find you online?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Duh. I'll put all the links in too, but we need to know.
You could find One in the Chamber on all streaming platforms, on all the socials. It's at OITC Band. We've got music videos on YouTube, music up on Spotify, merch on our website. You can check it all out.
They can join your mailing list and things like that too.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, do that. Subscribe to the mailing list. We don't really spam it, but that's a good spot. You should sign up for all your favorite artists' mailing list. It's so much less fickle than social media. If you love a band, if you love an artist, sign up for their mailing list. Yes. They'll appreciate it.
Yes.
And then for myself, you could find me on the podcast is on YouTube. No. The podcast is on Spotify. It is going to be on YouTube for the very first time as of July.
The time 29th. This drops.
Yes, yeah.
So by the time you're listening to it, YouTube. It's on.
I guess when I said it's on YouTube, I was kind of correct.
You were ready.
forward. Yeah, I was ready. I was living for next week.
Yes.
You can find the podcast on Spotify, on YouTube. It's titled Beats by Jer. You could also find me on all the socials at Beats by Jer.
I'm really excited. We're going to put all those links in, and to all of the incredible bands that you mentioned. Honestly, this has been an absolute pleasure, and we'll keep in touch. I can't wait. Maybe we'll have you guys on as a band later for some cool things you have upcoming. It's going to be great. So we will talk to you very, very soon, Gerrod. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.